Why hello! So today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up video, and for the month of March I read a total of 5 books, which I'm pretty pleased with. 2 of the books were not on my original TBR, which, you know how it goes. So I will be rolling those 2 books over to my April TBR, but I'm still pretty pleased with what I read, and without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get on into it. Now, as most of you guys know, I am doing the Around the World in 52 Books challenge this year. So for the majority of the books that I read, I align them with a challenge. The first book that I picked up in March is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. This took care of challenge 12, which is to read a book based on a myth. Now, this is a book of short stories, and most of the short stories either have to do with Odin or Thor or Loki, which are like the key players in Norse mythology. And I was really excited to pick this up because my knowledge of Norse mythology just stems from like the Marvel movies, so it was cool to see like the origin stories. A lot of these stories were very, very humorous. I love Loki, you know, he's like a trickster, and Thor is like a lovable doofus. There is not one story in this collection that I didn't enjoy, and I usually can't say that about short story collections, and I would love to continue to read more about Norse mythology, so if you guys have any recommendations at all, please let me know. But needless to say, I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars, I believe. I really enjoyed this one, and I can't say enough good things about it. The next book that I picked up in March is The Most Dangerous Place on Earth by Lindsay Lee Johnson. This took care of challenge number 32, which was to read a book with a long title, I believe 5 or more words. This story is an adult contemporary as well as a debut novel, and it follows the lives of a group of teenagers as well as their English teacher as they go through high school, and the story jumps back and forth in like past and present points of view, going back to their junior high school days where they all are involved in a tragedy that has joined them together. The writing in this book was really well done. I think that Lindsay Lee Johnson did an amazing job at portraying high school students. Authenticity is a huge thing for me. The way that a young adult or a teenager speaks and thinks and acts is something that I feel like I'm, pretty connected with. I'm 27, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I feel like I do have a pretty good sense of what that is like. So I've read a lot of books that just, they try really hard and they don't do well, but Lindsay Lee Johnson did a really great job at portraying young people in this book. With all of those things said, I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars because overall the plot was just really generic. It seemed like something I had read before. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You can read cliche material, books that have similar recycled plots to other books that you've read, and they can be amazing, but this one, it didn't blow me away, but I did enjoy the writing. Like I said, I think Lindsay Lee Johnson has a talent, so I will pick up some books from her in the future. The next book that I picked up is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This took care of challenge number 8, which is to read a book by a person of color. I had been wanting to read this book for years now. It's a retelling of 1001 Nights, and I don't remember knowing about that story before this book came out, strangely enough, but as soon as I heard about the concept, I was really intrigued. The story follows a young woman who is being married off to a king who is notorious for killing each of his wives on the first night of their marriage. However, this young woman intrigues the king and earns her life with stories which she, kind of leaves off on a cliffhanger each night to keep the king interested. I don't know how the original story went, but in this one, it goes a lot deeper into like the king's past and his motives, and there's nothing that can justify the actions in which you take someone else's life, but there is just more to the story, which I really enjoyed. I loved the main character, Shahrazad. I'm probably not saying her name right, but I really loved her. And you guys know that I have such trouble with female heroines, protagonists, in young adult. I usually just can't stand them, but Shahrazad, or however you say her name, was so strong and so powerful and so like witty, and Renee Ahdieh has really given me hope for young adult fantasy because I've just been reading so many duds so far this year, but this one definitely made me have faith in the genre again. Having said that, I believe I gave this 4.5, 4.8 stars out of 5, maybe 5 stars out of 5. It was very close to 5 out of 5 if it wasn't. Check my Goodreads if you're interested, but yeah, I really highly enjoyed this one, and I can't wait to continue on with the duology. The next book that I picked up covers challenge number 7, which is to read a book with an animal in the title or on the cover. For that, I picked up The Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin. Now, this was not planned. I got this book for myself as a birthday present to myself, which, by the way, I will be filming a birthday book haul very soon. It is possibly the largest book haul that I have ever accumulated on this channel, which is both terrifying and exciting. But yeah, I got this book and it's so short, and I really wanted to pick it up because I've been seeing the teaser trailers for Game of Thrones season 7, and I was just ready for some George R.R. Martin, but I didn't necessarily want to take on like the huge ass books from A Song of Ice and Fire, so I picked this one up. This book follows a young girl named Adara, and Adara was born during the long winter, and when she was born her mother died and she was left with her father and her 2 siblings, and she grew up just being a really kind of isolated, cold child, and no one could really ever figure out why. She just kept her distance, and she was very different, and she didn't really have anyone she could relate to apart from this ice dragon that would visit her every winter. It's a really quick story. It has illustrations throughout, really cool illustrations, and I just really did enjoy it. I thought Adara was an interesting character to learn about. Overall, the story didn't blow me away, so I think I gave it like a 4 out of 5 stars, but I couldn't give it any less because it is George R.R. Martin, and you guys know how much I love the dude, despite how long he's taking with the freaking 6th book of A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't want to talk about it. I can't get into this right now. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars, and I enjoyed it. The next book that I picked up covers Challenge 17, which is to read a book with illustrations. For that, I picked up The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket. This is the 2nd book in the A Series of Unfortunate Events series. I haven't read this series in completion yet. I've read to the 5th book, but I really wanted to reread the first 5 and then continue on with the series this year because of the Netflix series that came out, which I still haven't watched. As I said, I've already read this book. I don't think I need to talk too much about it because this is such a beloved series on BookTube, but it follows 3 orphans who have a lot of unfortunate things happening to them. I love Lemony Snicket's writing style. I'd forgotten how funny these books are, and they're just so funny and they're so quick, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, of course. Really looking forward to continuing on and finally finishing the series at some point. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. In the comments below, I would love to know what you guys read during March, if you've read any of these books, if you liked them, if you didn't like them, all of those things that you know, I want to know. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.